Time to break down those LSU Tigers. And each and every time we do that, our go-to guy, Carter, you can catch him. Power Hour LSU, Power Hour SEC, Power Hour NFL. You got it all right here with Carter. Carter, what's going on today?
Nothing much, Mark. Very excited. I got to go to the LSU spring game. Got to interview someone from Big Ten country, Mr. Bryce Underwood, the number one quarterback, and that's coming up on the Power Hour LSU channel, and he's really excited about the future of LSU, and I am as well, man.
The present of LSU centers around one Garrett Nussmeier, who turned in a pretty tidy 7 for 7 for $186 and 2 touchdowns. That'll get the job done.
Yeah, he played really well. Obviously, Mark, the offensive line helps out in a major way. I mean, that was a really good offensive line performance, and DJ Chester, the new center, did really well, and they return all four of the other starters. So, yeah, Garrett is a very good quarterback, and obviously, moving forward is who's going to emerge amongst the LSU wide receivers. Kyron Lacey had a big day. Xavion Thomas, a Louisiana native transfer from Mississippi State, also caught a deep touchdown. So the wide receiver battle is probably going to be the most fascinating.
So the secondary was not up to LSU standards last year. And then we get the indication from the Garrett Nussmeier stat line and others that maybe there's some issues back there, at least as indicated by the spring game. How much can we expect improvement there?
Yeah, so you take the great 2019 LSU team. That's who everyone compares every great LSU team to. And that secondary was very underrated, right? There was so much focus on the offense. And since then, Mark, they've just had major issues with the secondary from 2020 to 2021. Brian Kelly's first year in 2022 was a pretty good group, but Mark, that team was mostly comprised of one-year transfers. So that was just a one-year fix in 2023. They tried the one-year transfer thing, and a lot of the guys flamed out. They didn't even finish the season. So now you're at this point, and there are a lot of returnees in that secondary that there was a lot of hype with what they did behind closed doors at spring practices, and those players had a tough go at it. So now Brian Kelly with a new DC and two new secondary coaches. Do they want to go to a youth movement, or do they want to ride out the experienced guys? That's going to be a big offseason question for them.
Talking LSU Tigers, we've got Carter here from, of course, LSU Power Hour right here on YouTube, and you can catch all of Carter's work there and beyond. I'm looking at a commitment list for 2025 that includes Bryce Underwood as the top commit in the class, 12 hard commits, number 3 in the nation. Anything coming in recently or anything expected to come down here in the next month or so?
Yeah, so he just had a wide receiver, running back commitment from Alexandria, and JT Lindsay, who's a very interesting player. But they're going big game hunting. They had DJ Pickett, 5-star safety. I got to meet DJ for a little bit this weekend. They're going after some other elite national players, guys that normally aren't in their recruiting footprint. But as far as recruiting right now, Mark, the biggest story with LSU football right now is the transfer portal. And the biggest position of weakness is the defensive tackle room. And coming up here pretty soon is the NFL draft. LSU's defense wasn't great, but they're probably going to have 3 defensive tackles selected in the NFL draft. And if they don't get selected in the draft, they'll be in training camps pretty quickly. So that defensive tackle room got gutted, and they addressed it this offseason going to get Bo Davis, a guy that will have the number 1 defensive tackle selected in this next draft in Byron Murphy. So he's going to have to work some magic with this defensive tackle room, or else they're going to have to get some guys from the transfer portal, and there's not many good DTs in the transfer portal, Mark, so it's going to be really hard for LSU to address it.
There's been no indication of any kind of issue in this new world with LSU acclimating itself to NIL and everything that needs to be done to go get players immediately to fill needs to compete for championships. Is the NIL all buttoned up and in a good place?
Yeah, I would like to think so. Obviously, there's going to be other schools with deeper pockets. There's an unlimited amount of money out there. There's no salary cap, as you know. I mean, Mark, you've covered this ad nauseum. There is no limit to what billionaires could do to college athletic programs, as we just saw with Arkansas having a chicken plant go get a Hall of Fame basketball coach. So right now, LSU's NIL is good. What I would say, though, to all fans that look at LSU's NIL is there is no shortage of money. If you go look at the coaching contracts, I just mentioned Bo Davis, a defensive line coach, Mark, is getting $1.25 million to coach not really the defensive line, just the defensive tackles. They also brought in a defensive ends coach in Kevin Peoples, $2.5 million to Blake Baker. There's plenty of money to go around at LSU. It's just they used a lot of it for coaches, and I think they will be very active in getting potentially some big time transfers with some NIL as well.
So you were on the field to catch spring football in terms of the spring game in Death Valley. Put that together with the other 14 practices and the intel that you have. Do you feel any different about this team than you did a month ago? And if you do, why is that?
Yeah, so I'm very excited with the new defensive coaching staff. I think that was a major change that needed to be made. Mark, this was, and this comes with having like a team focused channel where it's easier, like on an SEC channel or whatever, to just say whatever you want. But when Matt House was hired, Mark, I wasn't on fire about the hire. And it was tough, right? There was a few people that were angry about that, and it turned out I was right. I wanted him to succeed. I really, really, really did, but it just did not work out. And now with Blake Baker, I am very on fire about Blake Baker because we saw what he did with the Missouri defense over the past couple of years, and he's going to have a lot of guys drafted on that defense. So I'm very excited with the direction of where the coaching is, but as far as the depth is concerned, in particular on defense, it's just not where it needs to be for a national championship level squad. I do like the way that the schedule looks and shapes up. I do like the way the offensive line is playing right now. I think that's going to be absolutely critical. So I think they're a fringe playoff team right now with what I've seen and what I've heard during spring. But are they elite? Are they Georgia? Are they Texas? Probably not at this point, but they're probably in that next tier-ish.
Carter, we'll have all summer to dice up the matchup in regards to personnel, nuts and bolts, all of that good stuff, matchups. But just on the surface, how cool is LSU USC, a matchup that we've never seen? I would have to go to Winsipedia to figure out if they've ever been on the field. But in my lifetime, since I've been watching college football, no matchups between USC and LSU because I would remember them. But those two three-letter schools coming from different parts of the country, and now the two major players in the Big Ten and the SEC in Vegas to open the season.
Yeah, so Mark, you're a historian, so you would like this. It's the 03 matchup that should have been, right? It should have.
Yeah.
It was that great Nick Saban defense going up against what USC had on offense at the time. And now we're finally get to see it in a pretty marquee environment with the Fighting Miller Mosses. Yeah, there's a lot of things that USC is going to do well that LSU might not match up with, and that is stopping the explosive plays. We Miller Moss obviously lit up a Louisville team through the air, and LSU is going to have to be ready for it. But yeah, also I think the bigger story, Mark, is it's Brian Kelly versus Lincoln Riley. I mean, I think because things move so fast and it's all about the transfer portal, NIL stuff, when they made their moves, that was still one of the 5 biggest stories I can remember in college football, especially involving coaches, right? Because you saw 2 coaches leave top 15 programs to go to other top 15 programs, right? You never see that. So now both of these coaches will be going head up, and they are both coaches that have a lot of haters. So I think there's going to be a lot of neutral fans that would love to see both teams lose.
Yeah, and that's exactly what storyline I went with while we were watching this take place in the moment was how often do we see, and the answer is never,
Never.
a coach leave an Oklahoma, leave a Notre Dame and not go to the NFL or not get canned. They don't leave for any reason. And it's never happened. And it happened in one weekend in two very different type of settings. Very interesting that the two now come together for a big matchup in week one.
Yeah, I'm very excited for it, Mark. And honestly, you look at LSU schedule. It's a weird schedule, right? You play them. You got UCLA coming up in that first month, and a lot of things do set up pretty nicely for them. It's just going to come down to if they're going to be good enough to take advantage of some good schedule breaks for next year.
Yeah, it is kind of odd to see USC, UCLA on the LSU schedule, two West Coast Big Ten teams.
Yeah,
It's kind of
weird. That's no,
really
that's
weird. And of course, UCLA, that's the return matchup from the Rose Bowl 2020 matchup, correct?
Yes. That was the beginning of the end of the Orgeron era. So yeah, it is that rematch.
Carter, set everyone up for what you've got going on your platforms.
Yeah, Power Hour LSU, Power Hour SEC, Power Hour NFL. It's a lot of film focused type of information. And honestly, Mark, Tennessee fans have really been blowing up the SEC channel. So I've been doing a ton of Tennessee videos. And I don't know if you have a lot of Vol fans that watch it. And obviously, Power Hour NFL, it's basically the same thing. And if you're a Gators fan, we just did a deep breakdown of Anthony Richardson going into year two. So I deeply appreciate you, Mark, and we'll talk soon, man.
Carter consumed in purple there. I love the look. It's a good
Oh, you
look.
do?
It's cool.
Yeah, it switched it up a little bit with the backlighting, but yeah, man, it's good times, man. And Mark, I appreciate you. I see you doing big things, man.